Good night. Oh, Lordy. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. How was y'all day today?
Good, good, good.
Relaxing.
Uh,
I can't wait. I'm claiming that, Des. Ah, but you know what? You put in your
Very
dues.
relaxing.
You put in your
Yeah,
dues.
yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I say the same thing to Nicole Whiskey. The
Mm-hmm.
same thing, she's retired too, and I'm just like, God,
Mm-hmm.
I claim in that, my son. What?
I'm having a lot of difficulties on this end. And then my friend Randy like threw me off. So I excuse me. I don't know why this man is my friend, but you know what?
But guess what? Aren't friends supposed to like what we talk about communication?
Whatever, Debbie. Again, I always depend on you to be that person. Like there is
Yeah,
no
exactly. You know, I always got to find. I have to find the positive. I have to. I have to.
okay. Whatever. Thank you.
Okay.
Positive, Debbie. Positive Nelson, Debbie. Yeah.
I today I put up a post. Well, actually, not me. Sorry. Kuja and Carlos Malik put up a post yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I don't know if y'all saw it in Love and Enlightenment. And
yeah,
he
yeah.
said things women find attractive in men. And then he asked the question to men, things men find attractive in women. And we actually got a lot of responses from the men. I was very, very happy to see that. Because usually, you know, you see the women going there, yeah, I'm waiting. Let's see what they say. Da 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 da. And then they don't post. So it was refreshing to see a lot of the responses. Did you respond to it, Randy?
No, no, I saw it. I saw it. I was
Mhm.
kind of like saving that for tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, yeah.
The reason why I'm having difficulties is because when we went live, I got kicked off of my iPad, so now I'm on my phone. That's the reason why.
Okay.
So I still have not found a position to put this phone because I never been on the phone before. So I don't know. I might have to come out. So I don't know what to do.
What you can do, even if you come out and come back in, if you have your laptop there, just stand your like open up your laptop and stand it against your laptop so it'll stay still.
I tried to do that and it was too low. And so I was trying to put stuff in the way. So, you know.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
I can't hold the phone the whole time. Oh, sorry.
So then you can't. I was gonna tell you, Pinky, you can't do it with your tablet either. Use that.
I use my tablet to be on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll be granted grace. You'll figure it out. I'm sure of that. So Desiree, while we wait
Yes.
for other guests to come on, did you respond to the women? The question to the women?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
So before we head into our conversation, I figured, hey, why don't our guest answer the question? So I'm gonna ask you, what are the things you find attractive in men or in a man?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Difficulties is
Randy.
went live. I got
Trina. Go ahead.
Honesty. You have to be able to have a good conversation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I know a lot of us that are on here, and it might be people from other places, but you have to be able to entice somebody with your conversation. Like, I mean, that's just what it is. And it's growth. You know what I'm saying? Because you see people, and some people haven't grown. My thing is honesty. Don't gaslight me. You don't have to think what I want you to say. Say what you want to say. And then let me make the decision based on what you've said, how I'm going to deal with that, in that position. So that's where I am. I think the number one thing is truly, truly just honesty.
Okay. And you find that to be attractive?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Before we go on, Pinky, you want me to read yours? Or you just want to say anything about it?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I write a whole long thing.
Yeah. You a long dissertation.
But my question to you, when you read her post, right? My thing about, if you had to just pick one, what's at the top of your list?
Who, for me?
Mm-hmm.
One?
It's only one, Pinky. One.
There can't just be one, because there's a lot of things. So to say, if I find a human being,
but what's at the top of your list?
That's what that my list. And I gonna say this: when I wasn't looking for relationships, right? That list is starting to add up based on the things that I see that's very important to me. I need to be able to have conversation with you. I need to be attracted to you. I need to see a man that exudes strength. I need to see a man or have conversation with somebody who is intelligent. You could be honest, but you ain't got no integrity. So honesty can be not integrity. You could be honest and you could be a cheater, right? So I can't pick one. That's why I can't pick one. Or I could say faithful.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. What does intelligent look like to you? What does intelligent look like to you?
It looks different ways, right? I'm not talking about a scholar, somebody who is a doctor or masters, all of that. That's irrelevant to me. An intelligent person is a person who is willing to learn and grow and has learned and grow. So they could hold an intelligent conversation. If they don't have the answers, they're willing to say they don't have the answers, but they're also willing to seek the answers, right? So intelligent is not, it looks different for me. And that's why I could only define it for myself.
So when you feel it or when you notice it, that's just when you know.
Yeah, because okay, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend today, and she was saying, I got my phone, guys. I really can't see here, so that's why my eyes gonna be all over. But we ask a person. We always say to a person, like, when we meet people, the first thing we want to know is like, what do you do, right? And a person might say, as a professor at the college, and we might assume that that's an intelligent person because, right, they wrote books and stuff like that. Not to Pinky. To Pinky, I want to know the person's character, the person's heart. Again, you could be intelligent, book-wise, and you can't hold a good conversation because you can't relate to none outside of your wall, outside of what that wall is. So you might be smart as all heck, but for me, so and that gonna look different for every individual. Because to me, you don't even have to have a degree. You don't have to have been schooled. You could have dropped out of school before high school and still be very intelligent in Pinky's perspective. Now, other people might define that differently, but I don't. So what have you done with your life in all them years? You drop out of school. What have you done? Like, have you established things? Have you changed your life? Have you made an impact in the life of the people you live in? All of them things matter to me. So I just say it's, for me, I have to get to know a person inside, a person's soul. You could come up with a resume. The resume could look good, but who are you as an individual? I don't want to hear what you do. I don't want to hear that you're a professor. That's irrelevant. I don't tell Debbie this all the time. Not because you don't write very well and all of that. That means you're anything. Who are you behind all of these perfect words? Who are you? That's what's important to me. I hope I answer your question. I can't see.
5 times over, but yeah, okay.
You just die in a mood today.
No.
Some of the let me just like because a lot of people responded. So some of the things that people said: the eyes, the hands, the voice, loves his mother, loves God.
Love the voice. Love the voice.
Kindness.
But I think, Debbie, that's
Uh-huh.
very important because the question is saying, what are you attracted to?
Right.
The things that we're looking at is not things that we can go in depth to say, oh, I know you have this or that. If when you walk up to somebody, what attracts you to that person? I think that's more of the question because we're going, like for me, my answer was honesty, right?
Right.
But I don't know
Good
honesty
night, Mike.
until I get in a conversation with you. Hey, Neil, what you said, and as I'm rethinking things, and I can always pull myself back. What attracts you to somebody? It could be his eyes, it could be his lips, it could be hand, foot, whatever it is you want it to be. But it's the initial attraction, right?
Right.
But that could be
like
for, that could be
like my hair.
that could be for that could mean differently for different people, right? Because you could walk up to a person, right? I could walk up to a person and I ain't even meet them. I haven't met them. We're not talking on the level of even being in a relationship. And they're talking nasty about somebody. Or they're talking nasty about their parent. That's unattractive to me. I don't have to be in a relationship. What is attractive? Right? A person who ain't got no manners is unattractive.
Okay.
But let me say this. Let me go back to, say for instance, you're walking in the village, right? Right? Mm-hmm. It's a whole bunch of people in the village, right? And you see this guy passing by. What would attract you to be like, wow, he look nice? I think, is that the question, Debbie? Because
I mean, I guess I mean, really and truly, maybe that really was the question. He says things women find attractive in men, but no, he didn't say initial attraction. He just said things women find attractive in men, right? My cousin's wife, Brissette, she wrote this whole long thing about my cousin, right? But she really did describe him, right? But I am really like, I loved Valerie, Dr. Reynolds, who's been on our show. I loved her answer, and I really align with her. She said, a man who seeks to please the Most High, honesty, integrity, insightful, willing to work on self, open, and having great culinary skills tops it off. And I like that, right?
I agree.
Eve, who was on the show before, she said legs. I tell people all the time that 46 years ago, I fell in love with a pair of calves that just happened to be attached to my hubby. So that was her initial, was legs, you know? So I guess for everybody, definitely it's going to be different. But it's just neat to see, you know, that so many people responded, especially the men. So the men, the question that Carlos asked was things men find attractive in women. Randy, Neil, who want to go first?
I want to start with Randy.
Boy. Well, my own is very swift, right? Because the scenario here is if you're in a room, bunch of women, you can look at a woman and see how intelligent she is. You can see how incredibly compassionate she is. You can't see none of them things. You have to see her exterior. Mm-hmm. So it has to be a physical attribute at first for you to even want to go over there and see what's going on. So for me, it has to be exterior first for that particular scenario. Now, if it's a scenario where there's a mutual friend involved and there's a conversation, then based on the conversation and their point of views and verbiage and stuff like that, that could be attractive. So it could be the scenario that creates the attraction. So it just depends on what scenario you're in, and it would create the attraction from that point, whatever's available that would attract you at that particular setting.
Cool. Cool.
Was
Okay.
that sufficient, Pinky?
That's what you find attractive. Do you want me to say about that?
I
You might,
tease it.
you might,
I
you might
tease it.
see, you might see the woman and her hairstyling that hat, so you might find her not to be attractive. You know, that
Correct.
might be the situation. So you know.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Correct. How about you, Neil?
Mine might be a little shallow, you check. So a long time ago, the woman I married to now, when we were teenagers, she had that Coca-Cola bottle shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still got to some extent now, right? But that was my, in a sense, that was my measuring stick. So it's like, I see you, you know, that was when I was younger. Now, personality got a lot to do with it now, right? But back then it was just like that physical thing. So there's a physical aspect to it.
Right.
I like hips. I like banana. Right? Me too big on the titty answer. You check that, you know, but
Wow.
He said
I mean,
it's professional, right?
then what the question was?
Yeah,
Well,
answer
breasts.
how you want. Don't listen.
Breasts.
Don't listen to Randy. You hear?
The question was, well,
Also.
he didn't specify. Like I was saying, the question doesn't really say whether it's initial or it just says things men find attractive in women.
Right. Okay.
So
it's whatever you find attractive.
So
Right.
now
You might find her earlobe attractive.
So as I get older, how you speak to me, a loving tone of voice, right? Being able to handle adversity, right? Because people are crumble under adversity and all of that stuff, right? So I guess for me it's a well-rounded person, a well-rounded woman, right? You know, she knows how to handle situations, you know how to talk to people. Personality like mine, in a sense, where I love people. I love people.
So you find that to be attractive when
Oh yeah, because one of the things I tell my daughters this, one of the things you're gonna do every day of your life is communicate with people. Right? So if you could do that well, right, it opens a lot of doors. And that's something I like, you know. So.
Cool. Dr. Williams said, I believe that there are different types of attraction: physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, etc. So, and I'm sure as you grow and as people mature, of course, that changes. You know, it's probably more carnal, of course, when you're younger, but as you get older and wiser and have more experiences, what might have initially attracted you and kept you in a situation is not necessarily what's going to hold you or keep you attracted to that person as you age, right? As you experience life. Marcelino said what comes out of her mouth is key for him.
How come you see Marcelino comment?
I'm not sure, but I see it on my computer. So tonight, our conversation is on, I mean, there's different ways you can say this. Why, you know, in a past relationship, what were the reasons that either made you stay or leave? Desiree used this the other night. What was the motivator to make you stay? Why or why not? You know, it's, you know, a lot of times when we think about staying in a relationship, a lot of it is about the toxicity in the sense of like abuse, right? But there's a lot of things that people get frustrated in relationship that either causes them to stay or to leave. And when I was looking up some information, it was talking about emotional intimacy, investment, family, financial reasons, or financial benefits, compatibility, concerns for the partner. But in life, it's so funny now. Like, you look at relationships, and to me, relationships are so easily thrown away. People don't. Okay, let me just say, this is my perception. People don't invest in relationships for a varied amount of reasons, as much now. Independence, financial independence, just the world that we live in. The when you go on those dating apps and you just swipe, so you meet the person, you don't like them, swipe, and you go to the next one, right? But what are the reasons you have either stayed in a relationship, or you left the relationship? Anybody? I'll say this. I mean, there's a multitude, based on how many relationships you've been in, whether you were married or not. That's going to also make that factor, whether you have kids or not. I know for me, I realized that I think for me in my marriage, one of the things that made me really decide that I needed to be out of it, other than the obvious things, was that I think there was a moment in time when I realized, like, wow, I'm kind of a single married person. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a part of me that had a fear of not wanting to come out of the relationship. And I had to question myself why. And it was because there was a part of me that thought, well, how am I going to take care of 4 kids by myself? And when I really had some quiet time to really evaluate, I had been doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of had to to just kind of rethink how I was looking at my life, and the things that were going on in life. Because sometimes I think we're so busy in life too, we don't see the obvious. And when I stayed, because I was married for 25 years, I stayed because, again, I thought it was the best thing for my children. And again, I didn't get married to get divorced. So for me, it was like, you got to make it work. But it can only work if both people are trying to make it work, right? So it takes independence. It takes support. It takes knowing, like Randy says, knowing your value and your worth, to make that decision. So for you guys, and again, you don't need to be calling out. I just use that as an example. But what are the things? Because I mean, sometimes we just think it's about like the real evil, but sometimes it's just 2 people just aren't compatible anymore for whatever reason, and they're not working towards trying to make it work.
Well, like I said, for me, right? My mom used to always tell me she was afraid for me because when I get in a relationship, I full blast 100%. And in doing so, at some point when I see it not working too well, or I always felt like I look on the sunny side of the relationship, and I could see like the person maybe, getting a little disinterested in me. It was always a fear of getting hurt, right? So you try to do everything you can, and eventually you can't change the fact that the person wants to leave, right? And then you just have to deal with that. So, and I get to a point where I start being the other person, right? If I see something going on a little funky, then I gone. I mean, waiting around. And then a couple of times I have hurt people because of that, when what I was seeing wasn't really what was actually happening, you know what I mean? But the fear make me leave, you know? But getting hurt that was one of the things now. I mean, I accept the fact that won't happen regardless. We are cheering them in life. So you just have to learn how to deal with it. So
True. True. Randy?
Yeah.
You don't be at a loss for words, so go ahead.
No, I feel like this. For me, I stayed in a relationship that was not worth staying. And the reason why I stayed is because I felt I was trying something new. So to do something new, you gotta try something different. So, you go to the apple tree all the time, you're looking for apples. So now, you're at a mango tree and it's a completely different tree and a different fruit and you're not used to it. So you tend to ask yourself, well, if I want different, I have to think different, I have to move different, I have to, adapt. And sometimes you adapt um, in the wrong way and you tend to put away the obvious things that are so blatantly obvious that you put it on the side because you're thinking it's supposed to feel like that because it's weird, right? So it's new. It's not something you've done before. So maybe this is right, but it's really wrong. And you tend to find yourself in a constant struggle to understand why I'm here. And then your ultimate thought would always be, well, you say you want something different. So here it is. And you have to figure it out. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And ultimately, at some point, you're going to start seeing the red flags and you're going to have to make a decision based on that. And for me, after I saw a certain few things that took place, I came back to earth and I went straight back to my apple tree ways and applied it to my mango tree. And I come to realize that, hey, it's a tree nonetheless that bears fruit. So you have to treat it the same. And finally, when I did decide to say, well, hey, this ain't for me, and, exit left, it took a long time to realize and look it over to see your flaws, to see your mistakes, to see their flaws, to see their mistakes. And, at the end of the day, when you make your assessment, is it worth being there or is it not? And if it's not, it's a long journey again to clear the plate for the next person. So you got to work on yourself. You got to heal yourself. You got to make sure you're straight mentally, emotionally, before you go entertain somebody else. And however long, everybody heals differently. However, the next go round, you just have to continue to apply yourself the best way you know how and get that person a fair shake. And you can't look at the other person and be like, well, I just screw over on that one and all woman terrible and me want that and this and that. But at the end of the day, if you choose to be alone, you will have a certain energy where you would always stay alone. And if you want to engage in another relationship, you would then, put that out there. So, I just feel that we all stay in a relationship, some of us for the wrong reason, but then we have a lot to lose. There's children involved because of your situation. You don't want to break up a home. You want your children in a dual family household. And you just live with that nastiness until everybody's up and gone. And then you're miserable for all them years. Or you know, you man up or woman up, and you like, look, this is too toxic, and ain't nothing gonna come from this. But then you have backlash of children, you know, resenting your thoughts, not your thoughts, but the choice you made. And
Mhm.
now you have children issues to go along with that now. Oh, you leave my father, or you leave my mother, you leave we, or you know, and all those things just come with it. So it's a very difficult situation to be in, and I pray that is a very minimum amount of people that have to deal with that. However, every relationship might sparkle and shine and carry on with all of that, but when you close the door, it's a whole different ball game behind closed doors. And I don't call Facebook the book of the book of fame. Everybody to put out their highlights. Nobody don't put out, you know, the rough part. But anywho, at the end of the day, I take up too much time. Um, that's my analogy on why people stay in toxic. I stayed in a toxic relationship.
Okay. Look, before we go on, Dr. Williams said not to appear sanctimonious, but she is the woman that God gave me, and those vows, though, I take them very seriously. We're coming up on 44 years in a few months. You know, and again, we've had Dr. Williams on before. We had Mr. Leroy and Miss Edith on, who also, I think they're coming up on 45. Um, people, I guess the biggest thing is not everybody's aligned. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody
Hmm.
is invested, and not everybody is willing to change. So that, that affects a lot with relationships, because you could want it all you want, but if the other person isn't trying to compromise or see your perspective, and like we talk about, really communicates, you know, it's
Hmm.
a hard thing. It's a really difficult thing. I like the other day, Randy, you said, why do we pray for them to change rather than adapt so that we can understand them, is also a thought that people have to
Yep.
take into consideration. But Des, how about you?
Um, I think at some point people need to be equally yoked. Within this group, I haven't been married, and I made that decision, right? I think people need to be equally yoked. Sometimes, I know people that have been together forever. You understand what I'm saying? But it's so, some people stay because it's a comfort level. I'm comfortable. You're comfortable, and you're not uncomfortable enough,
Enough.
right? But you're comfortable, and it's the thing to do. So um, everybody's situation is so different, and that's the issue. It's like because what might bother Johnny is not going to bother Sue, right? And so there's lots of different components that can make people stay. If I've been with you for 10 years and I know nothing else, where am I going? How do I start over? Who's going to guide me in starting over? 10 years ago, the dating aspect is completely different than what it is now. So instead of me going out there and getting my feelings hurt, I might as well, because I know the devil that I live with, right? Why am I going to go and try to find someone else? And so as adults, and I think, my thought process of when I was 20, 30, even 40 is completely different than how I think today.
Right.
Completely different. Because here's the thing, whatever decisions I make, the only person I have to answer to is myself. I don't have to answer to anybody else. And if I decide to be in a relationship, these are things I'm going to say up front. I'm not gonna hide anything because they said don't start nothing you can't finish. That has been my mentality the entire time. And so I think people stay because it's a comfort level. People leave because they're like, okay, I'm tired of this. I can't deal with this anymore. Emotionally, let me tell you something about emotions. Emotionally, when you're in an emotional distress position, people don't understand what it feels like. And this is where that depression and anxiety and things definitely come into place, right? And as we're doing things, today, we're learning that I think some of us were dealing with depression in high school and we didn't know it was depression, right? Or anxiety or something of that sort. As a counselor, as I am, this is how I look at things. But, for example, all that we get beat when we were small, it wasn't considered child abuse. You are out of place. I go put you in place, and that's what it is, right? But I think we have to look at the individuals in each relationship because it's completely different. And I think I don't know if it was Pinky or somebody that said it. It doesn't matter if you have a degree. I know people that don't have no degree that were making more money than me, and I got 2. Okay, it doesn't matter about that. But if you get in that comfort zone, where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have self-preservation and say, you know what, I could do this, and all of this stems back to your childhood, what was presented to you, whatever the case may be, those are the things that you have to look at, right? So I think why you stayed is your decision, right? And people on the outside, sometimes we tend to be like, what she saying with he? He don't cheat on she. But the thing about it is, right? He might be cheating, but he's still treating her like a queen. I know it's an oxymoron kind of thing, but some people, you there with somebody 20, 25 years, until you get in your mind, you know what? I better than this. I could do this without you. I can't speak from a marriage standpoint. I can speak from a longevity relationship. But you can't do me this. You cannot. You know what I'm saying? So I think every relationship is going to be completely different. Why people stayed or why they left.
Exactly. How about you, Trina?
There's very good points, everybody. I think that a lot of times that we feel like when people stay, it's always toxic. It's always an abusive relationship. That ain't always the case, Sometimes it's a situation where I just talk in general. Sometimes it's a situation where it's sacrifice. You're sacrificing for the sake of a greater cause. And we always think that people staying together for the sake of the children is just a horrible thing because we exposing them to so many bad things, right? But we don't know the conditions of people's households, right? That might be our situation. I don't know if I could hear the feedback, but again, a feedback, so, and it kind of bothered me. Okay, so
we don't hear it.
Yeah, every situation, it doesn't have to be toxic, because if 2 adults decide to stay married for financial reason, for the sake of the children, to raise the children in a 2-parent household, whatever it may be, that you make that choice for that cause, right? There are situations that's toxic. We're not going to pretend that they don't exist, but we can't assume that everybody who stay in every relationship that's not a loving, kissing, hugging, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it would be best for the children, but we live in a world where you got to keep a roof over your head. You got to put children through school. People don't have people to take care of their children. They might live in different states, different countries from family members. We have so many different situations that may cause people to stay together. It's like Des said, some people don't want to start over. you know. And some people don't simply know how to start over, because I was in that situation. I did not know how to start over until I was forced to start over. And when I was forced to start over, I still didn't know how to start over, to the point where I was like, me starting over, I just quit. You know what I mean? It was easier to quit than to figure out with this wall, this craziness that's going on in this wall. It was easier to quit. So I think people stay for, like how you said, for many different reasons. Some people hold their vows sacred. You know, a vow is between you and God, right? That's your vow. I hold my vow very sacred. I did not vow to Des or to Neil or to Randy or to Debbie. I vow to God, right? What does that mean? Does that mean we stay in toxic situations? That is not what I'm saying. But sometimes people stay for some greater goods. Your finances, your children, people taking care of elderly parents. People have sicknesses. Stayed in relationship for sickness. Multiple things. In my situation, I stayed for multiple things. I had sickness. I had my children. I wasn't walking. I had so many different variables. I was not willing to raise 4 children without a husband, nor was he willing to be a baby daddy. He wasn't willing to do it. And we made that sacrifice for the sake of our children. I had a roof over my head. I had food in my belly. I had nothing to deal with when it comes to my finances. My children, them love their father loved them. I wasn't going to take that away from my children. I wasn't going to take that from my sons, nor was I going to take that away from my daughters. So we deal with these things, right? But I think the more important thing here is, what do we learn in these situations, right? Because when I was in my relationship, I was so busy wanting things to be my way that I was so busy arguing about this, arguing about that, blah, 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 blah. And I think what's important here is figuring out who we are in these relationships. And what do we take away from these relationships? And what do we bring into these relationships? We could say we stayed in this, and this person with this, and this person. A simple example. He don't like to wash the dishes. He don't like to cook. He don't like to step foot in the kitchen. So you going to walk away from a relationship because he don't like to step foot in the kitchen? Or it's like Randy said, you compromise. Okay, he don't like to step foot in the kitchen, but he like to do something else. So do we just walk away? And then we may have, like Des said, friends or family members that have an opinion. Des used a good example about cheating. We assume that everybody think that because a man got somebody on the outside is cheating. That might be a poly relationship that all parties agreed upon. We may not like it, but that's none of our business. And we live in there. We did the relationship. So these are the things. And it's like Randy said, Facebook is a place where people advertise their good life. Well, it's best you advertise your good life on Facebook, because if you don't, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Because what if somebody agreed to be in a poly relationship and they're on Facebook? Do you know the kind of ridicule they'll get? And I ain't getting into the religious aspects. I'm not getting into the legalities of whether I'm not getting into that. I'm saying 3 adults decided that this is what they want for themselves, amongst themselves. He taking care of the 2 households. He taking care of all his children. You know, me talking about Nick Cannon, I got a bunch of baby daddies, and some people say he don't take care, and some people say he do. I ain't talking about that situation. I'm talking about maybe something that could be considered healthy, right? So you gonna go on Facebook and broadcast that? I mean, I suggest you don't, because the ridicule and the backlash you're gonna get, you just add in trouble to your life. So we have to learn to stop judging other people's lives. And we have to learn to support by listening and helping those people that are in these relationships. You should leave. Okay. But who gonna take care of the children? You gonna help pay my bills? These are the things we got to consider. And you might leave, it's like Des said, better the bad, the devil, I can't remember it verbatim, Des. But Nikita always said, I know what God, I don't know what game myself into, or something like that, right? That's what you saying. Because you could leave, and who's to say you're going to end up in a worse situation?
Hey, Pinky. They said the war was flat once a long time ago, no? And nobody didn't want to go. Once they found out the war was wrong and you could go places, now everybody wants. Sometimes you gotta take the chance, right? Sometimes you got.
I'm not saying.
You gotta think
I'm
the
not
leap
saying
of faith, right?
I'm not saying don't take the chance.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is, like Des said, I just agree. There are so many different factors. Now, if you're in a bad situation and you unhappy and it's toxic, you need to do what's best for you. That's what I am saying.
So, Debbie, I'm going back and forth, and this is new for me. I think it might be someone on YouTube that made a comment that said, if you're staying with the kids and the respect is gone, I don't, let me see. The person's name is, maybe you can see it, is Walden.
Where you seen it at, Des?
It said anyone that stays in a bad relationship for the kids is a fool because when the respect is gone, it's over, right?
That's probably Waldo. I can't see it. Go ahead.
I did the chat with that. So let me make one comment before I get back to that. Lulianos, don't come for me on Facebook. Okay? All right. So here's my thing, right? I agree with that person because when you stay in a relationship for the kids learn based on the behaviors that they see. So if I did this whole so man, arguing all the time, but we staying for the sake of the kids. What do you think when your kids grow up, they think that arguing is acceptable? That's just how it is. I've counseled kids. I'm telling you, it's a norm for them. So as adults, you know what I'm saying? There's so many, for me, there's so many things I've learned within the past 10 years. Let me get 10. Could be 15, right? But we become comfortable. We're uncomfortable, but we're comfortable enough to say it. Why? Because that's all you know. That's all you know.
I think a lot more of us is uncomfortable than we're willing to accept.
Debbie, we can't hear you,
Pinky, let me ask you a question, Pinky.
Mm-hmm.
So you got daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your daughters grow up seeing you getting, physically abused and so, right? And then they grow up and then they get with a man that doing the same thing, you gonna let that happen?
Okay. I don't know why they said that people don't understand me.
But Pinky,
so
wait,
this is the
Pinky,
question. I go answer your
question. No. I just want to know.
Pinky, you have to answer the question. You can't explain. It's yes or no.
No. I answering the question, but I will explain. No. Okay. Thanks though. No, because I clearly said there are situations that's abusive, right? There's some relationship that is toxic, and I am not talking about those. I said that. So
can it be a combination of abusive and toxic? Right?
Can it actually be a combination?
If you got abuse in it, it got to be toxic to me.
Yeah, but do you know there could be situation where it's none of the above?
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Relationships that's not none of the above. People staying together for whatever reason. They can't afford to leave each other, but they respect each other and they're not abusing one another. Is that all possible in our scenarios or no?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely is possible.
Karen,
I asked you something specific though.
No, I would never tell nobody to stay in an abusive relationship. Never. I will never.
No, all right.
Karen said they also learned that you sacrifice self for what does not serve you, and it's true. That's something I guess because I was younger, I wasn't really looking at the bigger picture. And again, you see so many people. Even when I went to college, I remember I had a roommate, and she came. Her parents brought her to college and everything. And like next week, she was like breaking down, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And come to find out, her parents got divorced, right? Or whatever. They were just waiting for her to come to college because she was the last one, right? And she didn't understand. She was like, "But I never saw them argue. I never saw anything
They were
that was
thinking they were
going
going to
on."
spare. It went on affect her when she becomes 18 and that kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if we're not teaching, we're our children's in this scenario, we are our children's first teacher, right? So whether we are arguing, whether we are ignoring each other, whether we are talking to each other disrespectfully, whether we don't even sit down as a family together, we're teaching them stuff, right? And so it's like, you think you're staying for the better good. I mean, yeah, if there's financial reasons why it's really hard for you to, but I also think it's important for parents to have that conversation with their children too. That I'm staying, even though I know this is not a healthy way.
Easier said than done.
It's easier said than done, but I can tell you, for me, I used to tell my children, this is toxic. This is unacceptable. I never once acted like this is okay. And they saw me when I was in the process of doing what I needed to do to lead, right? Because I never wanted neither my son nor my daughters to think that this was acceptable behavior. This is not how people who say they love each other treat each other. Because I'm only saying that because, if they see you maneuvering in the relationship, but nobody's having that conversation about what is truly not correct, you're teaching them a whole heap of like, okay, my parents are together, because they've already made the assessment. Why are the two of them together? They've already made that assessment because they're feeling the energy, they're feeling the nastiness, they're feeling, even if, I hear people say, oh, well, I never argued in front of my children or whatever. But if they see you mad with each other, they still know that you all don't really like each other.
But Debbie, when you're young, even as a young adult, right? It's hard for some adults to process them kind of thing, much less a child. So when I hear you saying like, I tell my children them this, right? Like, how does a child process that? You know what I'm saying?
A child can't process that.
You could be as explicit as well as mild-mannered in the explanation, right?
Right.
But it's still difficult. Listen, my parents didn't get divorced when I was 33 years old, right? And it wasn't a shock to me, but I feel that way. You know what I'm saying? I knew it was coming a long time, but I still feel that way. And I was 33 years old. It didn't affect me that much because I understood at that time, I don't have children of my own and everything, right? So, but yeah, it's always difficult when you got little children involved, right? To explain to them, even though you want to make sure that they're okay, right? And then they don't get blindsided by it and all of that stuff, right? But relationships and decision making is one of the most underrated thing, right? Because you can make a decision now and you don't know that 30 years from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna affect you.
Right.
We think that staying might help and it will help for a minute, right? But when they become adults, I had this conversation with Debbie and I tell her, for me, 97% of the things that you learn is informal learning. 3% of the stuff you learn is formal learning in school and so. But you could be in your neighborhood watching a man doing or a woman doing the same thing over and over and over again. 40 years later, you're doing the stuff and you're like, why you see this before? You learn that stuff, right, from your peers. So, I don't know.
This is just one factor of what keeps people, but it's a lot of times it is the major reason why people stay together, right? But My only concern is that sometimes people think that by never addressing it with their children, because you're going to hurt them whether you stay or you don't stay. You're
Right.
teaching them stuff whether you stay or you don't stay. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, you just really have to. And again, for everybody, it's going to be different. You
So let me
know.
ask you a question.
Mhm.
You experienced something when you were growing up, right? Your mother used to sit down and talk to you about it.
No, I mean, again, my parents. Let me explain. Let me kind of like explain my thing. My parents got divorced when I was 7. Right. My mother never remarried. My mother never. She dated someone when I was like 14. The person lived in California. And we lived in St. Croix. So I never saw her in a dating scenario. Right. But my parents got divorced when I was 7. I remember little incidents, and I had to have only been 3 or 4 that they had. But again, in those
But at any point,
parents
did
weren't
she?
having conversations with their children. I just
Okay.
did this, and that's how it was. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. No,
All right.
I didn't know. I didn't know if that was the reason why you would do it, right? Because
No,
here
my mother
again,
wasn't that
if
person.
if your parents are a certain way with you, right? That's what they learning. That's the way they learn to be with their kids, right? Because all this stuff is you're learning all that stuff, right? How your father interact with you, how your mother interact with you, right? And that becomes a model, so to speak, so that you know when you grow up, yeah, it might be toxic, but here again, my parents endured this toxicity or whatever it was, so therefore I could do it as well,
Right.
right? But then as we get older, we there's more research that go into all of this stuff, all of the psychological effects, the physical effects, and then if you're willing to learn from that, then you say, you know what? Yeah, back then maybe it was okay for them, but for me now it's not okay for me, right? So
Right.
hopefully you will learn trial and error.
Right.
I want to add this. Wherever we go in life, we don't take ourselves. And we always assuming that it's always the other person in the relationship that is the toxic one or the bad one or the reason why we should have left the relationship. I think Debbie said, or Neil, one of you said, I know Debbie said, and I think Neil, you said it first, was we teaching our children something, whether we go, whether we stay, right? So if we were the problem, that's why I asked the question, who is the problem? Because usually in a relationship is both of us is the problem, right? We talking about the children being in toxic relationships. We talking about us, the message we giving to our children. Sometimes there is no children involved in these relationships. We're assuming they are, but sometimes they're not. Because we're talking about all kinds of relationship, right? We should start this conversation with how we don't even get into relationships, right? Did we see errors in these people before when we picked them up and we overlooked it because, or like Neil said, you were young. You met your wife when you were in high school or junior high. So you ain't gonna know an adult woman. You ain't gonna know a working woman. You ain't gonna know a working woman with children and a house. And these are the things we get in life and we progress. And then these things get exposed to us as we go on in life, right? So you can't say at 16 or 15 or 18 or whatever, this person gonna be like that. Because most of the time we ain't gonna sign on for no crap like that, right? We end up being in these situations and then we dang it. No, we gotta paddle our way out. If we could paddle our way out, right? But what about us? Like how we end up here? Because that's the question I always asking myself. Like how I end up here. What did I do? What did I overlook? What am I doing now in the relationship? Am I afraid to move on? Again, do we honestly look at ourselves and our contribution, or do we blame the other person?
We do.
And I could tell you, even though the person might be a cheater, right? Does that give us the right to show up in some of the ways in which we showed up in this relationship? Because if we never look at ourselves, we could leave 1,000 times over and we could pack our chair and them up. But where we go, we're going to take ourselves. And we're going to find that relationship again. And we're going to find it again. But now the difference is we dragging our children from relationship to relationship, or we deciding to stay by ourselves, and then our children don't understand the importance of relationship because we teaching them something whether we go or whether we stay. So not because I leave that toxic relationship, that means I teaching my children something healthy about relationship. Because I could leave and teach them terrible things about relationship. Do we look at ourselves? What we are bringing to the what are we contributing to the breakdown of all relationships that we find ourselves in? Randy, you well quiet tonight. What going on with you?
Well, me gonna interrupt you. You're there on a rule, so I gonna say this. Did anybody ever stop to think about? We're gonna look from our parents' point of view. They might not have. They themselves learning about that situation that they're in, and don't have the. I see somebody put tools, but don't have the knowledge on how to address it. So they're learning as the situation evolves. And yeah, as a child, you see it. They're not trying to pass it on, but they're learning about it just as much as the children are. Mm-hmm. So it's not a factor to me in the sense that who's to blame, right? It's how you handle the situation. So for me, I always look for a common denominator. If there were 5 men and 5 men cheat on you, why is it that everybody want to cheat on you so? There's got to be something with you that creates your mate to want to be in that situation to cheat. And I'm not saying man or woman, either which way. So you become the common denominator in the factors of all your relationships that all 5 people chose to cheat on you. Now, you just said you went from one relationship to the next, but they're all the same, right? Because you searched the same thing. However, if that's the case, when I said earlier, I was looking for a different fruit from a different tree. And even though I look at a different fruit on a different tree, and I still ended up with similar scenarios. And it was only until I went back to the original tree is when I realized I see everything, because I was blinded to all the red flags because of what I wanted from the relationship more than anything else.
Right.
So I had enough flags to have a new country with all the flags that I overlooked and collected over the time of the relationship. So that's what I'm saying. Until we understand that we could be part of the problem, we could be the problem, right, or they could be the problem or part of the problem, it's still a problem nonetheless. And it's how you attack the problem, how you address the problem. So one of my things that I wanted to address in my relationship was I wanted the children them to know that I wasn't the bad guy. I was not the bad guy. And I sit them down in front of the mother when we were having our blowout or whatever you want to call it. And I show them some facts, because I know from previous relationship with my ex-wife, there was negative things said about me that have my children them feeling a way about me today. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that it was true or not true. I felt it was unnecessary to even bring that to their attention. But because it was brought to their attention, it hinders my relationship now with them. So am I to say, well, oh, she's a nasty dog, look what she went and do? No. I will wait till my children them old enough to comprehend the situation, have questions, and man up enough to come and ask me my side of the story or what took place. Mm-hmm. So that way I could inform them from my side and let them make a decision based on their intellect. So when I did that with the last person, they were surprised to know that half the thing their mother does do. You understand? And half the things that I've done for she and them. And that wasn't to be bad-minded or nothing, but I felt for that particular situation, it was necessary. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe they might grow up to be better children worse children. They might learn from it. They might not. Either which way, to be honestly and brutally honest, I don't care. It don't matter to me. But I just want them to understand that when I kick off because of something. And because I've been trying to be the good guy all along and be like, okay, how can we solve this? How can we do this peacefully? And how can we do this and do that? Because it was different for me, right? Normally, I just bottle it up. I bottle it. And then out of the blue, kaboom. And it's whatever, however, whoever, take that, go about your business. Now I feel better, right? Because I unleash all of that. So the different approach was communicate, brother. Converse with these people. So that way you could find some kind of solution.
Right.
So now, for the first time in my life, I am conversing and communicating. It feels awkward. It feels weird. I don't understand how to receive the solutions because it didn't make sense to me, or it's not what I thought the solution should be. So now, what happened? I have pile up and pile up and pile up. The solutions didn't work because one or the other person never held down the solution to or followed through on the solution. So we still have the same problem because nobody followed through on the solution that we came up with.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, for me, I just felt we as people, we grow every day. And as the problems arise, all we could do is use the best knowledge and experiences we have to create a solution to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Those that don't have children in it, it's a lot easier. For those that are financially stable, it's a lot easier. For those that are not, it's more difficult.
We assume that.
Yeah, it's an assumption. But it just has to make a little bit more sense because at the end of the day, you have two people that are well off, have good careers, and have all of this. It's easier for them to just say, you know what, it's not working, so I go in left and you go right. There's no children involved and there's no finances involved. You're both healthy people. So it makes it a little bit easier, we assume, right? And then versus somebody that, like Pinky was saying, you have health issues. You have this, you have that. You can't afford because guess what? You're a homemaker. You're a homemaker. He's a provider, but he's a nasty provider. How do you get out? That's a way more difficult task than two people who are equally yoked and have their stuff together on both sides of the fence and decide to bust off. So yes, it's a individual situation,
Right.
and you just have to be in a mental state of that you understand what's best for you and yours, if there is, and you just have to come up with a plan to do what's best for you and yours, and execute. It gonna always have repercussion. Every reaction have a reaction. So at the end of the day, you're in a bad mother because you choose to leave your mate because he was abusive, or mommy was just jealous that I had liked daddy more. Well, if that's how you feel about it, child, then so be it. But at the end of the day, when you sleeping and your father boxing me in my head, calling me out of my name and doing me all these terrible things, you don't know about it. You just know when you wake up, daddy was the first one to come and greet you and give you a hug and a kiss. So now you are daddy child, you love daddy, you love daddy. Mommy is a bad one because mommy made this decision and you don't know why. But mommy don't have the right to tell you. She could share it if she choose to, but she don't have to tell you because you're a child. That's grown people problems. So don't have to involve children. But at the end of the day, it's neither here nor there. I just feel we as people, you could talk to somebody all day long, and if they don't have the comprehension level you necessary to make that communication connect, talk to the wall, you're going to get a better result. Because you ain't going to hear nothing. You're going to just pass through and ain't going to have nothing happening.
Sure.
So for me, I realized that I was being used. I was putting myself in a situation where there was no gain for me.
Hmm.
So since there's no gaining for me and everybody else gaining from me, that can't be good. That's how I look at it. It just can't be good. If everybody around the relationship is gaining but me, something is wrong with that. So let me fix that. How can I fix that? Boss off and leave that situation there. So I could find myself and do for me and make me win like everybody else. But it don't happen overnight. It just don't,
It don't.
And that's what it is,
Um, before before we wrap up, right? I just wanted to read some of the comments. Nora had said we ignore the red flags. I think that was in response to even when we initially get into a relationship, a lot of times because of whatever path we're on, whatever Karen has said, the red flags are always there. We see what we are looking for based on where we are on our journey,
hmm
and Nora said true. And then Dr. Williams said, my wife and I agreed to stop arguing a long time ago. We have conversations instead. One listens while the other talks. Respect one-on-one. And of course, in terms of the motivation of staying in a relationship, if you really want to be as at peace as possible, it really takes the two people to make the decision to come up with solutions and actually implement them, right? And
Yeah.
hang on to them.
hmm
Joy has said, so what are the tools one needs to build a healthy relationship? And Karen has said accountability is the key. As adults, we need to hold self accountable for how we show up, why we're showing up, and how we contribute to the relationship and what energy we carry. Pinky had answered her. Great question. Awareness.
Hey, Debbie,
Conversations. Say it again.
I had a conversation with mother when I was 12,
Mm-hmm.
and she tell me, the hardest thing you will ever do in your life is to stay married because every day is a sacrifice and a compromise. And I take that with me, right? But everybody don't get any kind of advice. Everybody ain't, so you gotta be willing to sacrifice and compromise every single day of your life.
It's true. It's true. Um, Karen also said self-knowledge, self-value, communication, and again, compromise. Joy said this, and I kind of say, she said, we use the term equally yoked, but do we know what it truly means to be equally yoked?
We don't know what that term means at all. We use it in the Bible all the time, and we think, and it's best I explain it because I was trying to answer I was trying to answer it, but it's long. We use it in the Bible, and most of the times we as the Christians, them who use it don't understand. We think because I's a Christian, he's a Christian, I know God, he's no God. We don't go to the same church on Sunday. We don't, read our Bible. No, that's not what it means. It's deeper than that because it's what level you are on your journey. So if I pick up somebody, if I decide to mate with somebody who is not at the same level of my journey, who's, let me say, it depends on the individual. And this is very complicated, but the lessons them that I have already come through and I have learned, and this person is at that stage. We're not equally yoked. We don't have the same things. We're not striving for the same common goals in the relationship at this point. And so when we talk about equally yoked, we're talking about goal. Like, do we have the same? I always say relationship goal, and people misunderstand what I'm saying. But do we want the same things in a relationship? And are we willing to work for those things in that relationship? Like Neil said, are we willing to make the sacrifice and put in the work? Because some people ain't willing to put in the work.
Every day, no day off.
And if somebody going in thinking, well, they don't want to put in the work, when one other person thinking they're going to put in the work, we're not equally yoked, right? So that's what that term means, because ain't nobody coming here knowing everything, and ain't no relationship that ain't gonna come with struggles and problems, right? And of course, we're not talking about the toxic ones. But I also wanted to address what Karen said about the red flags. Because Debbie, you mentioned that the red flags is when we're in relationships, and I think no. Sometimes
No, we were saying before.
Say that again, Deb.
I was saying even before you enter into the relationship.
Even before you enter the relationship. But again, it's like Randy said and Neil said, as we progress in relationship, things is going to be unfold. So we don't have the answers in the beginning, you know.
Can I say something on that red flag thing? Like every relationship, right, is after the fact, you know, say, oh, that was a red flag, right? Why is that?
When I had seen them, I didn't even know that's what it was.
Why is that? So
hindsight is 2020.
It may not have been a red flag, right? But as you get, or it could have been what you call a red flag, but everything that you consider a red flag gonna be different in every relationship.
Yes.
Right? So I mean, it's gonna be almost impossible to find until you see something that go against your moral compass or your moral standard that you ain't appropriate, right? But as long as you could endure it and ain't really violating that, then you're okay with it. At least that's what I think.
You're okay with it because you see it and it ain't hindering you at this point. But because you didn't address it at that point, now it came a bigger flag and a bigger red flag and a brighter red flag and more flags trickle off of that. And now that you're out the relationship, you could look back because you have time to process it. And be like, oh, you know what?
You're actually removed from the situation.
The situation.
Because a lot of times being in that situation, from my experience, being in the situation, I couldn't even see what I was dealing with because I was so bombarded and my mind was so preoccupied with stress and how to solve this issue with the children and this issue with the finances and this and this and that. And, you know, your health, your this, your that.
You want to give a person a chance, right?
Sometimes you want to give them a chance, but sometimes you yourself need a chance because
you know the problem.
So much.
The funny thing is, for me, I wanted it so bad, I ignored it. I see it. The flag poked me in my eye, blind me, and I like, no, that ain't a flag. That ain't a flag. That ain't a flag.
No,
now I got one eye.
Karen said it was a pink flag, and
then you know what I mean.
But Randy,
yeah.
When you commit and you say you love a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
What comes along with that is giving people a chance, right? Because we are gonna be violators of having a red flag or showing a red flag, right? And you would think if you had the conversation with a person, you could say, well, you know what, I could do better, right? If they address it, right? Because listen, a friend of mine told me this a long time ago, right? At some point, we all got bad thoughts. He said the difference is some people act on it, but most of us don't. And if all of we are acting on our thoughts, we'd either be dead or we'd have been in jail, right? So at some point, we're gonna all make that mistake. We're gonna all show red flags, right? Because we're human. But at some point, you would want to say, well, you know what? My bad. I'm gonna take accountability for it and I'm gonna make a change, right? But that's easier said than done. So I just think, you always got red flags, but the red flags that come from both parties, right?
I agree because there's things you're gonna do that they don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's on both sides, 100%. I'm just saying that there is some things that you're willing to compromise. There is some things that you be like, well, I can work with that.
Yeah.
And then there's some things that you like, man, that I can't deal with that. But you don't want to mess up the situation,
right.
So you just push it to the side. And then it arises in a different form on a grander scale.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, I should have said something last week. Now look at this shit. Oh, sorry, look at this, right? And the next thing you look, you're like, okay, well, this ain't the right time to address it. I gonna wait till we behind closed doors to address it. And you never get a moment. And then it comes back again. You know, and I brought the scenario to y'all one time. I said, my favorite sandwich was peanut butter and jelly. And I said, hey, babe, can you fix me a sandwich? She bring tuna. So I said, well, okay, all right. But I love peanut butter and jelly. And next time I say, hey, can you fix me a sandwich? She bring bologna and cheese. So then I have to stop and say, hey, my favorite sandwich is peanut butter and jelly. So when I asked for that, can you give me that? Then you, Neil, said, well, maybe it ain't got none. So she's just giving you away. And my reply was, well, then tell me that. So that I have the option if I want that sandwich or not.
communication.
But don't just continuously bring every other sandwich under the star except the one I want. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it is be like you ain't paying attention. That's a red flag. Because
That's a comprehension problem too.
yeah, comprehension problem. Because I telling you all the time, hey, I like peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly. And when I ask for it, here comes salmon and tuna and cheese and bread and everything under the
We
sun
are the
except
sum
Now,
of our
that is a
experiences.
big problem.
We are the sum
because-
of our experiences.
Yeah.
When you listen, here again, my mother telling me this. One of the hardest things to do is stay married because you have two people brought up two totally different ways from two totally different sides of the tracks, trying to become, as we call it, equally yoked, right? The
Mhm.
behaviors from what a person come with and what you come with may never mesh because that's just your part, some of your experiences. And sometimes you just got to know when to bow out. That's what kind of getting to, you know, you got to kind of know how to bow out or recognize that. Or for me, if you got 10 things you need, 10 things on your list that a person have to have, right? You don't get all of them or no. But are the ones that you don't get, are you willing to work with that and try to get a person to get on the same page with you for those couple of things? Because listen, we all got a list of stuff we want in people, but we're gonna never get all of them things. Which ones are worth compromise and which ones are not?
But like Joy says, sometimes we see the flags, right? But convince ourselves that we can change that individual. I think at the core of a lot of relationships, you always feel like you'll be able to convince that person to change, right? For you,
At the core of
needs of
unhealthy thinking.
True. And Karen
Well,
said
I think
to
we do that with
Brad,
our friends too, right? We do that with
she
our friends
said,
too.
Hmm?
We do that with our friends too, right? They
yeah,
Exactly.
pick us up
when
on it.
whenever I'm talking about this, you know, we talk a lot. It seems like we're talking only about romantic, but it is about just our friendships, our
Yeah.
relationships,
Any
period. Right?
Because where we go, we take ourselves
Correct.
in
Karen
all the
said-
relationships.
Karen said to you, Randy, but did you ask for a P&J sandwich, or you just
No,
said,
but-
"Can I have a sandwich?"
so
You
I
left
see
it
that.
open.
I see that by can't type, right? So check this out for Karen, directly to Karen. So because I a serious sandwich man, whoever I with, I will make that known just as much as my first name. So when I get into them thing, I'll be like, yo, that's my favorite sandwich in the world.
You
If you
said-
come to my
Yeah,
house right
is
now,
your first name Randy or is it Randall?
well, irrelevant to what it is at this present moment, being getting that
We're
with
talking
you.
about. We're
But
talking about semantics, right?
I just
Is it
saying this.
BB&K
I'm
or
saying this.
peanut butter
I'm
and
just saying this. You come to my house, I got 3 can of peanut butter and 2 thing of jelly.
what?
If I come to your house and I just stay there, I gonna bring peanut butter and I gonna bring jelly.
Okay.
So that way you
That's good.
can't say that you didn't know,
Right.
because at the end of the day, as I tell you my name, my very next line is I just eat peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my favorite of all time. And then I could tell you my horoscope and all that stuff. But that is kind of like go hand in hand. So for you to not understand or not take the initiative to listen to the small details and implement them,
True.
you start to wonder, well, what else is there not listening to? What else they're not willing to
Yeah, but
implement?
that's not a little kind of like, I don't know. You said for that person to not understand that, that's a critical part of being in a relationship with you, right? To them, that might not be critical, but it is to you, because you said they need to understand that.
And actually, there's a video that I'm going to. I didn't share it yet, right, Pinky? There's a video that I'm going to post in Love and Enlightenment that actually talks to the things, the conversations you should be having with people on the onset, so that everybody is on the same page. Because then if they're not paying attention and they're doing what they want to do, though, that is when you determine whether or not this is something I'm willing
That
to stay
is where
in.
everybody that's
I
what
find it to
everybody
be
talking
weird.
about is a red flag
Yeah,
because
but I find it to be weird because everybody want their way some way form of fashion.
No, but okay, that's true, Neil. But if he's specifically saying to someone,
Okay,
that he likes peanut butter and jelly, and they're
okay.
consistently giving him what they want,
The
that is a red
question
flag,
is that I
a
asked him,
microcosm of what's to come in other
but I
situations.
did ask, is that a deal breaker as well? If it's a deal breaker, I could understand that.
No,
Well,
you can't use it as a deal breaker, but you could definitely use
is.
it to say that something else is going to stem from that.
But it is a deal breaker, Randy. It's a deal breaker.
No, I didn't leave because she didn't bring me my sandwich. I didn't leave
No,
for that. I
but
just
for
went. I
you,
just stopped asking for sandwich. I went to make my own. You check? That's all.
but is it really so to me, is it really the sandwich or the fact that you are telling and you're requesting and you're making it known what you love, what is important to Randy, what Randy like? I mean, Randy to pack up his peanut butter and jelly and take it wherever he goes, and he does say first and hand, that's what I like. Now, if I meet an individual, and again, this is from onset, right? If I meet an individual and I'm making my request, as much as you making your request for your peanut butter and jelly, and the person give me a bologna sandwich, ain't no lie, I gonna be vexed. That is a big problem to me. That's a deal breaker because if
do it yourself.
it's
If
not
you
about
want
doing
it
it,
done, do it
to
yourself.
me, it's not about doing it myself. To me, it's about you are not listening to me. You are
Correctly.
not hearing me.
That's
You're not
right.
seeing me. You are
Correct.
ignoring me. You are
That's
not
right.
even paying attention that this is a small, minute thing to you, but it is major to me.
But
So
guess
to
what?
me,
You don't
that's
do this.
why it's a
Everybody
deal
don't do that
breaker.
same thing. Everybody does that.
That-
The same
Yeah.
thing.
No.
Yeah, but you know
No.
what? I can't be
No.
responsible for everybody. I could only
That's
be
right.
responsible
No.
for
I'm
Pinky.
saying,
I don't
you
believe
can't
that.
hold somebody's foot to the fire, right?
No, sir.
When we all do it. Remember last week we had that thing about who throwing the first stone to the glass house and all them thing, right? Like to me, if it's a deal breaker, I could understand you saying that, right? But here again, communication is a big thing too, because it could start out as the person in listening, but down the road, they really find out how important it is, or they realize, right? And then they say, you know what, let me make this change, right? A lot of stuff could happen, but to put an indictment on the person for that one thing, no, if to Randy's point, if it start going over to other stuff, more and more, then yeah, I agree. But
Yeah,
one
I,
or two things,
but Neil,
This is something
That's me.
I hear what you're saying, Neil, and we're talking about compromise settling.
thank you.
But there are some things that's very important to an individual, and
that's
to
what I
me,
just
what
said.
is
I
important
did
to
say that
me,
if it's a deal breaker.
to me, it is because
Okay.
if there's nobody gonna leave here tonight with anything in this conversation, they gonna know that Randy like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Mhm.
So if everybody know that,
But
how
Randy
come
come
the
to my house,
person that I
I
in
mean
a
that peanut butter and
relationship
jellies
with-
because I don't like it, and if he asks me, I ain't got it. He got to bring it
Okay.
like you said.
So let me help you with that. I gonna clarify the whole PJ theory. If I come
know,
to your
Randy.
house and I ask you for a sandwich, my automatic response gonna be, "Do you have peanut butter and jelly?"
He done make
And then
his
you gonna
request
say,
known.
"No, I don't eat that." Then I gonna say, "Okay," and I gonna pause and decide, do I want a sandwich or ask you or leave it alone, right? So that's my point. My point wasn't the peanut butter and jelly. The
I
point was
understand.
that
I
they
totally
didn't
understand what
take
you're saying.
right. They didn't take the time to do the little things, right? And because of that, I often wondered if I continuously repeat it after every sandwich you bring me. I keep telling you, well, babe, I like P&J, man, and I like P&J, and I like P&J, and you continuously don't bring P&J. I have a feeling that you don't care. It's not, you don't care about me and what I want and stuff like that. So then I will start to think about, well, what else that you don't care about or whatever for that on
If
my
you can't
behalf.
care, if you can't care about something as little as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a little thing like that, if you can't make the effort for me to hear me, to see me, and to show up for me for a little thing like that. Why would I invest bigger things?
Right.
I can't afford to risk that.
All I'm saying is, everybody have them little things that they don't share with a person that they care about. Because I have this theory: women don't give a man a blueprint to their heart, and a lot of times we don't drop the ball because it's in the fine details, and we don't always get the fine details done. You see what I'm saying? So Randy's a little different. Randy, he like the details because he mentioned that, right? For me, I don't try to choose my battles, right? No, if I talking about, we going out and being safe, I need you to understand the details that when we do out, this is what I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? So it's all depends on the person, and like I said, what's a deal breaker to the person? You know what I mean? Because as simple as it may sound, that could be a big deal breaker to Randy, and I'll ain't necessarily peanut butter and jelly, but the whole thought of what it means more than just that. I understand that.
Yeah, it's an indicator for bigger things to come. For me, that's how I take it. Brenda says the hardest part of relationship is communicating effectively on all levels. And she also said that when in that scenario Randy was giving, she doesn't care about pleasing you by not honoring your request. Norma said exactly, Randy.
But everybody don't do that. I'm just curious.
No, apparently not, because I had that issue.
Yeah, but if I talk to her, right, she could tell me of certain things that she tell you about that maybe you didn't catch on to. Right?
And I gonna beg to differ with you, because at the end of the day, my one perfect thing about me, meaning who like or don't like the word I use, the one perfect thing about me is detail, brother. Detail.
That's why it's a deal breaker.
Hey, a lot of we think we could experience stuff. I work with a man. This man will tell me a bunch, and I say, listen, give me some more details, or you should know what I'm saying. No, right?
Right.
So here again, communication, comprehension, and effective communication, right? Because if you come to me in a loving manner, I got more tech what you telling me. But if you come to me stone and so like use my father or my mother, you're gonna just go in one ear and come with the other. So tone of voice and all that stuff plays a role. I ain't saying, Randy, that you didn't do that. I ain't saying that. I'm just saying it's a lot of things that are going to how you communicate with people.
For sure.
I gonna add this because we going over, but I gonna add this. We have to be focused on the person who they're in front of us and not everybody. Can we in a relationship with everybody? We in a relationship with the person in front of us. If we can't hear them, if we can't see them, if we can't pay them no attention because, well, Debbie this and she that, and we're going to lose the person in front of us. So I say this to say, Joy had asked, what do we do in these relationships, right? Why do we stay? Randy, why would you stay when somebody in the beginning ain't paying you no damn attention and going to do what they want with you and feed you whatever they want to feed you, whether you like it or not? Why do we stay? That's a red flag. You might not have known it was a red flag, but it's a red flag, right? And again, you may not have known that. But this is how we figure this whole thing out. What is going on in my household? What is going on with me? How am I feeling in this relationship? How this relationship making me feel? How this individual making me? We got to deal with the people in front of us. And then we move on outside of that. Now, two adults, Camille, you said it earlier. We might be together for many different reasons. You could sit down and explain it to the children, and the children might not understand. Yo, mommy can't leave because mommy ain't gonna be able to eat. You know, the children them don't know what that mean, right? That's why it start with you, and that's why it start with the person in front of you. Yo, I gonna stay in this relationship. Me and you ain't gonna be fighting every single day because I need to get myself together to leave one day soon. That's the person in front of you, but you don't make the decision for yourself first. So how do we do it? We work on ourselves first. We try to fix the situation with the individual. If the situation, the individual gonna still be giving me a bologna sandwich, yo, that's a problem. You got to go, because I don't even eat bologna. You're trying to kill me now because bologna is bad for me, okay? So that's how, Joy, that's how we deal with these things. We first look at the situation for what it is. We have to decide what is best. First, for me, for the person, for everybody involved. But we can't be in relationship with Facebook and the whole world, because that's just too much people. And we're going to lose the person that are in front of us. Especially, we're going to lose ourselves.
Yes, sir.
To wrap it up, since we went long, right? I kind of want to end it with Nora said, we have to be able to take on the needs of our loved ones. We all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. We all want to be understood by our loved one. And Dr. Williams said, relationships are perfectly imperfect.
That's a great word.
So, as always, these conversations are just to invoke something in your family conversations, in your relationships, in self-reflection. That's what this is about. So again, I want to thank everybody who made comments. I want to thank all of our guests here tonight: Neil, Randy, Des, Pinky, of course.
And you too, Debbie.
Thank you. And definitely everybody who commented on YouTube, everybody please go to YouTube and just subscribe to the channel. Because again, with Facebook, you just never know what can happen. And we will always be able to.
What's the subscription up to now?
I think it's at 177, and we have 1,600 people in Love and Enlightenment. So just got to go over there and subscribe. Turn on your notifications.
I gonna be a priest after this. But go ahead.
That's okay.
I'll kick you out. Just behave yourself.
But again, I just want to thank everybody for the comments, because you never know. One word, one statement, one thought, one perspective can help somebody, whether they stay or they leave. Right?
Randy, they got kick me out, so don't worry about it.
Everybody, please stay safe, and we'll be back here again next week.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Randy Aganoa.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh, dear.